I pray today is going well for everyone. Oh, this is a major one, and we're going to dive into it today. We are investigating Daystar's current situation. You are aware that this church is well known, aren't you? Yes, much babbling and major players. At last, attention! They are currently facing serious accusations regarding some very risky matters. Very well. Many have voiced their opinions regarding these claims and Daystar's handling, or lack thereof, of the situation. That's also our purpose here. Our goal is to delve deeply into the meaning behind the statements, Daystar's reaction, or lack thereof, and their impact on Daystar and the world at large. Yes, because this goes beyond a disagreement between fellow believers. Daystar is not the only one affected by the current trajectory of events. Of course, of course. What stood out to me, and I imagine many others, was the contrast between these assertions and Daystar's long-standing reputation, their image. That is completely illogical. Sure thing. As if two narratives completely unrelated were merging. Indeed, and the focal point of it all is Joni Lamb. While discussing her inner circle, we keep bringing up the names Arnold Torres, Steve Wilhite, Doug Wise, and Tom Callender. According to our sources, the accusations against them contradict all of their public campaigns. After all, didn't it start with hushed conversations? Yes. Yet here we are. My goodness, it went off. A serious issue has arisen. That's the name that some have given it, and that is exactly how it feels. However, the most peculiar thing to me is that Joni Lamb's silence is the initial indicator. An onlooker summed up this person's career by saying that she was always fire and brimstone in her speeches. Nothing you can do will help you escape harm or clarify the situation. Definitely, and as you well know, a lack of response in this matter speaks volumes. It seems to demand further investigation and scrutiny. It raises the question of what they may be concealing. Those in the know with Daystar's board of directors have informed us that the focus is on legal strategy. Suits and donors pulling their money out are two things that a lot of people are anxious about. However, this leads me to believe that contrary to what our sources have told us, preaching is not a profession. I think that's a crucial point. Have different aspirations, don't you think? Superiority in quality. Yes, and there are many who see it as a sign of spiritually unhealthy arrogance. This is especially true given that Joni Lamb has previously accused people of being dishonest. Two sets of regulations appear to be in effect. I agree, and it is important that you remember this. Many turn to religious leaders for guidance on matters of morality. When trust is broken, it hurts. You know, it's not like any old business problem. What little we do know about the atmosphere at Daystar HQ is not promising either, given the current state of affairs. The term being used to describe it is a bunker mentality. It was terrifying to hear that. Their unresponsiveness to emails and letters requesting that reporters cease their actions suggests that they are indeed hunkering down. The vast majority of the time, doesn't everyone agree? Table Talk co-host Joni Lamb included. Harmonious as a pair, but even they're silent now. It gives the impression that Daystar is trying to hide rather than confront problems directly. In many cases, that kind of response conveys more than any comment the respondent could offer. What makes them so afraid is puzzling, certainly, and no one is being duped by this quiet. Angry and inquisitive former members and contributors are taking to social media in droves. In my opinion, the most important thing to know is why Joni is hiding if she is innocent. And our sources tell us that the resentment isn't limited to potential mismanagement of funds. Yes, there is more to the story. The key theme is the betrayal of trust. They were disappointed because Joni Lamb let them down after they looked up to her as a spiritual leader. Feeling betrayed can be incredibly painful. Their town and their beliefs are both rocked by it. Indeed it is, and it is intriguing to note that according to our sources, there are certain similarities with previous scams. The plot revolves around leaders who attempt to sidestep accusations such as Jim Baker and Ravi Zacharias. As an argument, they claim that strategy is always flawed. This is particularly rare in religious institutions. Yeah, because being truthful and sincere is something that everyone needs. And when things aren't hidden, they're only going to become worse. Based on the comments, it appears like they're getting themselves further and further into trouble with each passing day, that Joni Lamb remains silent. People are rational when they draw that connection. When it comes to matters of religion, these historical examples demonstrate that attempts to dictate the narrative almost always fail. People are able to discern when there is a discrepancy between what is said and what is done, isn't it? Steve Wilhite, Senior VP of A-Star, took a radically different approach than Joni Lamb when discussing the split. In his YouTube response, he clearly lacked consideration. He referred to his detractors as, get this, marketing bugs, and it was more of a tirade than anything else. So seriously, worms as a form of clickbait? No problem. Yeah, that's correct, and it's totally different from how the other leaders have remained silent. Our informants tell us this might mean they're attempting to cover up the fact that they're losing control of the story. It's not their usual public relations approach, and it's not producing the desired results. Definitely not. The reception of Wilhite's tone was severely negative. The joke about millennials not being our viewers really got under my skin and made me feel aggressive and angry. In terms of the future of the church as a whole, millennials play a significant role. That was immediately pointed out. Joni Lamb's entire religious philosophy is exposed as feeble due to his behavior. Assuming that everything is under God's control, why do people act so cruelly? Given that they typically preach about faith and forgiveness, it's puzzling that they could be so furious. It raises questions about their honesty and the consistency between their words and actions. Furthermore, according to our sources, Wilhite's fury was not an impulsive reaction. The people closest to Joni Lamb, including her family and friends, seemed to be fine with it. It seems the rationale behind this bullying tactic was to discourage further criticism by making the target feel unsafe. It appears the plan's risks were not worth them. It was true, several former contributors voiced their disapproval, claiming it didn't reflect Christ's teachings, discussed the poison using his own words. Not only that, but some pastors have even taken to social media to wonder if it is consistent with Christian teaching to refer to people as bugs. You can say it's a major public relations disaster. Who exactly is advising them is a mystery to us. Why? Because it suggests that Daystar is relying on her own fears rather than divine intervention to get through this. Steve Wilhite, who was previously more of an afterthought, is now the public face of this double standard. And when that person is so blatantly antagonistic, it can be devastating to their brand because it undermines all of their hard work and credibility. Since Tom Callender's backstory is intriguing, let's spend a little time discussing him. Initially, he reportedly defended Jonathan and Susie, the reporters, by citing the Bible, according to our sources. He then contacted Joni Lamb via phone. Out of nowhere, everything shifted. It's intriguing. Afterwards, what were your next steps? A light bulb suddenly went out. Suddenly, he begins to discuss the various ways the Bible can be read in relation to the importance of the church's unity. His assistance to Jonathan and Susie has ceased. I agree, that is a significant shift. It raises the question of what they discussed during the call. Yes, and according to some, Callender stated his fear of harm and even mentioned Doug Wise, though it is unclear whether he made actual threats or merely suggested consequences. He seemed to lose his courage rather quickly. More than one guy is reportedly scared about this, according to our sources. Rumor has it that other board members may be complicit but are too scared to speak out, leading them to believe that this reveals a deeper issue within Daystar. Truthfulness takes a backseat to trust in a fear-based society, and taking responsibility becomes next to impossible in such a situation. Next, there's the entire Arnold Torres story. He had a private meeting with Jonathan, but word got out and the media covered it. From what we have heard, it does not sound good. Torres barks out what seem like threats as she clumsily instructs everyone to put down their phones. From what we heard, the air was thick with the scent of fear. Seems awful. Concern and secrecy are warning signs. Their strong desire to conceal something is puzzling. It has been suggested that Torres may have been involved in some dubious business dealings, and this conduct is associated with those claims. If Daystar is truly honest and moral, then our sources don't understand why there's so much secrecy, they say. I think that is a valid inquiry. Make transparency a core value for any group, but especially one that claims to follow faith. Of course, let's discuss Doug Weiss, Joni Lamb's sex therapists, since we're already on the topic of thought-provoking behavior. The charges leveled against him are to a reasonable degree justified. According to multiple employees, the women were extremely anxious about his appearance. According to reports, he made a number of people feel uneasy by staring at them in an inappropriate way and using creepy words. I am deeply concerned about that. Prioritizing the well-being and protection of others should be the first concern of any organization, but notably a church. Now we reach the most exciting part. Weiss reportedly wasn't simply tolerated, according to our sources. Joni Lamb was the one who pushed him, and women's workshops were all about him. Daystar claims to be committed to Christian principles and purity, but this doesn't seem to fit with that. The question of whether their words and actions are consistent arises because of this. Particularly in a religious context, it ought to be paramount to safeguard the vulnerable. That much is certain. Next up is Table Talk, hosted by Joni Lamb. Daystar reportedly has financial ties to all of the cast members of that show, so how much leeway do they actually have to express themselves? Not much is visible to us. Yes, Joni, it's more of an echo bubble than a conversation. Wow. That's terrible. Associating only with like-minded individuals clouds your judgment and makes it harder to think critically. On top of that, according to our sources, spiritual matters aren't really the focus of Table Talk. Maintaining employment entails subservience to Joni Lamb, which is more akin to brainwashing. They go so far as to discuss the concept of spiritual Stockholm syndrome, in which members openly support the leadership due to financial incentives while secretly harboring doubts. Although it's not often, the thought does occur. Telling the truth when people's jobs are in danger isn't always easy. This is particularly the case in Daystar's very tight-knit community. It appears that money connects all of these things, as you might have observed. Those we spoke with claim that the close associates of Joni Lamb, Wilhite, Torres, Callender, and Weiss, are all in it for the money. People claim to be in a financial bind because they are terrified of being laid off from their six-figure jobs. When material possessions take precedence over religious or philosophical convictions, it is considered worship. Although it aligns with the majority of opinions, that assessment is fairly critical. The pursuit of financial gain has the power to transform even the most moral organizations into criminal syndicates. Also, it's not limited to a single individual, is it? The current situation at Daystar is indicative of a larger issue within contemporary evangelicalism, as per our sources. This pattern of secrecy, avoiding conflict, and relying on loyalists to censor critics is pervasive in these large megachurches and media conglomerates. Ravi Zacharias and Jim Bakker's PTL are cited as examples, and the plot is identical. Prioritizing people over principles, and everything falls apart in the end. Your arguments are well-reasoned. That this is an issue with the entire system and not simply with Daystar is demonstrated by this. No doubt about it, there's a religious dimension to this as well. According to our sources, the Book of James discusses the concept that teachers will be looked down upon more severely. Daystar's upper management is now facing an additional moral obligation. Having that in place is crucial. What happens on Earth is just one part of the story. A higher standard is being set for them. Regarding Daystar's future, it is, to put it mildly, uncertain. The question on the minds of our sources is whether the departure of donors and partners will be gradual, or if the announcement of further bad news will cause everything to crumble. Ultimately, who will be weaker? That is the question that may be most crucial. You know who it is. Only the truly religious, or those who had a hand in bringing this about, are left. Everyone should give some thought to that question. In the end, what matters most to them? For what are they prepared to die? Some difficult questions there. Anyone who has been associated with the Daystar Group, according to our sources, should conduct some serious introspection. The key is to strike a balance between impersonal devotion and active participation. At what point does providing financial support to an organization become an invitation to misconduct? Despite how difficult it is, we must complete it. Yes, it is about being accountable for your deeds and considering your options for making a difference. The most crucial thing I've learned is that we should discuss Daystar in more depth than simply rumors and gossip. What needs to be done is to hold these large departments truly responsible for their actions. How can members of the congregation and contributors distinguish between genuine leaders and those who are merely concerned with their own appearance? The websites we visited made us think deeply. A system that relies on deceit and coercion will eventually collapse. Eventually, the facts will surface. Who among us will be around when that happens? It all comes down to the sincerity of our faith and the level of accountability we have for our leaders, so it's a good question to consider. I would have preferred to put it another way. After reviewing the allegations against Joni, Lamb, and her associates, the various responses, or lack thereof, and the potential causes of everything, our comprehensive analysis of the current situation at Daystar comes to a close. Not to mention the implications for evangelicals more broadly. Our intention all along has been to provide you with an uncluttered view of a murky situation by making use of the data at our disposal. This case study is fascinating, I must say. It exemplifies the challenges of leading large, influential groups and the tension between faith and responsibility. Finally, we have one last suggestion for you to consider. In light of everything we've discussed so far, including the historical parallels and the significance of accountability, what steps do you believe should be taken to safeguard religious organizations and their leaders? What can we do to establish a culture where people always do the right thing? This inquiry extends beyond Daystar. It relates to our trust in our leaders and the faith that directs us. We must have this conversation. The point of taking a close look is to strengthen things, so I hope that it has provided you with some food for thought and conversation within your own groups.